Hello and welcome to the Intuitive Heart Healing Podcast. My name is Valeri. I am your host for today's podcast. I bring these podcasts to bring you insight and even talk about my healing journey to help you on your own healing journey. So with like everything in life, discern what you feel is true to you, what you connect with, and whatever you don't, disregard, throw it out. If it resonates with you in some way, reflect on it and see what that is telling you and showing you. Don't always take my word for things. Use your own discernment and taking what you believe to be true. I'm just here adding my insight, my guidance that I'm given, sharing my story with all of you to help you on your healing journey. So this podcast, I'm going to piggyback on the last podcast. In the last podcast, I said the dark is not greater than or less than the light, and the light is not greater than or less than the dark. And I felt really called to journal about this a little bit more, to come up with some insight from my guides, from my higher self, went into the records and just really journaled about what that is. And really what I'm gonna share a little analogy that was shared with you in this whole journey, but we are here to go back to oneness. At least that's what I'm here to help you, to get back to oneness, into your heart, into that pure divine love. And in order to get into that oneness, we have to begin to release this duality, the polarity between things. And, as our humans experience, we are here to understand the polarity, to be in that polarity. But when we want to enlighten and evolve more as human beings, more into this one collective consciousness, we are to release that polarity, release that duality, come back into this oneness, into this space in your heart center. And so the light and dark is duality. We appreciate the light and see what the light brings us only because we see the dark. And the dark helps us by giving us these great, wonderful lessons, or maybe not so wonderful, depending on how you look at it, right? But the dark gives us this contrast of what the light is. And the light gives us the contrast of what the dark is. But when we are coming back to this oneness, into our heart center, into this divine love and happiness, it is about releasing that duality. It's bringing both parts into one, into you, integrating them together. You think about this, we talk about numerologies, we go 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll just stick with those. 1, individual. 2, partnership. 3, unity. 4, foundation. So when we have the 3, we're bringing in 2 and 1 together. So you think about that, we talk about the Trinity, the connection to all things. In Christianity, it's Father, Son, Holy Spirit. We have mind, body, consciousness. We have Father Sky, Mother Earth, and Child. This whole 3, mind, body, spirit, the Trinity. in the center of this is you. The oneness, the unity within yourself. So when you take the two and you bring them together, they come within you. So when you take a partnership, a duality, and you take one, you have three. And I was kind of getting into my human mind and thinking about all these things in my human mind. And I started thinking about sports. I'm a huge sports fan. I really enjoy different types of sports, a lot of women's sports, but like soccer, basketball, baseball. And when I was looking at all these sports, even you could throw football in there, they're all odd numbers. They're all not odd numbers. And I was like, even in the sports world, there is this somewhat of an understanding where you bring two opposing things together into one. So when you have odd numbers, you could take the evens as opposing and you bring them into one. And so when you take the light and dark, you bring them into you, you come back to this oneness. But if we begin to label one as better than or less than the other, we're causing a whole nother set of duality in here, a whole nother contrast to it. And most people will say, and I say most because it's not all, and you all may have slightly different opinions of this, and that's fine, but I'm generalizing here. Most will say that the light is good, or the light is better, and the dark is bad, or the dark is less than. If you listen to my last podcast, I like to bring the light into the dark. I like to be in the dark, but I like to be in the dark to learn and evolve and become more and bring more into the light to get myself back into this oneness. So if we look at these two things, the light and dark, and then we label them good and bad, then what we begin to do is we begin to put judgments on here. And when you are going into this heart center, into love, there's no judgment. That pure, divine, unconditional love in the state of oneness, in the connection to Source, there's no fear. There's no judgment. There's no hate. There's no guilt. There's no need to forgive. So if we begin to label these things, the light and the dark, as good and bad, then we begin to already have judgment on these. And so I want to share with you an analogy, and we're just going to keep this simple. And I'm sure we could get into a bigger discussion about certain things when we discuss this. But let's just keep it simple right now, just so that we have a better understanding of what begins to happen when you label something good or bad. So let's take an apple. And let's first take this apple and label this apple as good. So you love apples. You eat 1 or 2 apples a day because you absolutely love them. And because you believe that these apples are so good and they're so good for you. and that this apple is better than chocolate cake. Because the apple is from nature, the apple has healthier sugars, the apple gives you fiber. The saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. There's just all these good things about the apples, and you absolutely love apples. So the fact that they're good for you and you love them, it's a big plus. So you eat these apples every day, and after you eat an apple, you feel good about yourself. You feel like you're doing something good, and this apple brings you joy. It brings you happiness because you just love apples so much that you have this overwhelming joy every time you eat an apple. And it brings you peace that you know that by eating something that you love, that it is good. You know you're doing something good for yourself. It brings you peace. And you have this sense of peace. Now your friend, every day in the break room, eats chocolate cake. Your friend loves chocolate cake. Absolutely loves it. Your friend believes the chocolate cake that they eat every day gives them the boost that they need to get through the rest of the day. And they sit there and they enjoy every single bite as they eat that chocolate cake nice and slow. But you, who labels the apple good, you label the chocolate cake bad. So when you see that your friend eating the chocolate cake, you're like, you have these thoughts. I can't believe they eat that every day. I can't believe they put all that sugar in them. I can't believe that they do this to themselves, that they don't take care of themselves. And your friend begins to feel this judgment. And you've said to your friend that you don't think it's good to eat chocolate cake every day. You think eating chocolate cake every day is bad. So now your friend, because they feel your judgment and you projected your beliefs on them, your friend, every time they begin to eat chocolate cake, what used to bring them joy and happiness and a sense of their own peace, now feels guilty. And they have this running dialogue in their head going, why do I eat this every day? This isn't good for me. It's going to spike my blood sugar. I'm going to have to go to the gym because my friend told me it was bad and I was going to start gaining weight and it was going to give me diabetes. And these running dialogue now your friend has, and they're just beating themselves up over and over because of what you projected onto them. And now I want you to come to this point of view where the apple is not good or bad. It's just an apple. And when you eat this apple, you feel love, you feel peace, you feel joy, you feel happiness. Why do you feel love? Because you love apples. You love the flavor and the taste that just brings you more love. And because you have this mindset now that things are not good, they are not bad, they just are. And we can appreciate everything for what it is. In this moment, what it is. We can appreciate it. And so that means that chocolate cake is also something that is not labeled good or bad, it just is. And so now when you eat chocolate cake, you enjoy it for what it is as you eat it, and you find that pleasure of what it is. And your friend, when your friend eats it, it brings your friend that joy, that peace, that love, because it's just chocolate cake. It's just something that they enjoy, that they love. And when they eat this, and when you eat the chocolate cake now, there's no guilt, there's no shame. There's nothing running through you that makes you feel bad, undeserving, unwanting, because it just is. And we could take these same principles of label things just as they are and put them into our everyday life. When you meet a person, that person is that person. They just are that person. They're having a bad day? No, they are having a day. And they are trying to navigate their way through that day with everything that comes at them or move towards them. They are doing their best to show up and make it through that day. And they are just a person moving through the day. And sometimes that person may experience things that are not as satisfying. Or they may experience things that are satisfying. And you see, we're right back to this labeling things in a way that creates this duality. So the more that you can actually pull yourself into this is, this is what it just is. You know what? I missed my flight. That's just what it is. To reschedule my flight, it's going to cost me more money. That's just what it is. And you know what? I'm okay with that because I know that I am the creator of my own and that I can create my own financial wealth. It just is. If you begin to stress about the money and put it out there, you are then beginning to block yourself from receiving and having more money to come in. And when you start to think about what you could or could not do with that money, you're starting to bring in fear instead of allowing yourself to be open. And I'm not saying it's easy and I'm not saying it's hard. I'm just saying that's what it is in that moment. And in these different moments, you may swing. You may go down that rabbit hole, like, oh my God, this is so much more money and I'm not going to be able to do X, Y, and Z now. And you know what? Then that's when it's time for you to refocus and bring peace to it. Bring back that peace, bring you back into center, back into oneness, back into your heart center where you know that you have everything you need and that you are going to be okay. And sometimes it's a little bit easier to redirect yourself, and sometimes it isn't. But that also depends on how much you have worked to bring light into the dark and to bring the darkness back into you with the light. Back into this one thing, oneness, in this one thing, in this oneness in you. So if we begin to believe and look at the fact that the dark is not greater than or less than the light, and the light is not greater than or less than the dark, it will begin to help you navigate these lessons. Because if you feel like you're always in the dark and you label something like shame as being in the dark, every time you feel shame, you will have these feelings of not so good. And if you look at somebody and you look at that person and you say that person has no shame, that's so good for them, then you're back into this whole duality and this separation. And we don't want this separation. We want to bring it back together. In this journaling, in this discussion, and speaking now as I am through the records, the oneness also has to do with equality. Equality is not the same as oneness. And this fight for equality, for everything to be equal, is not allowing us to be our own individuals. And we're sharing this with you because we want you to begin to take a look at what that means. And what that means to you, and what that means moving forward. When we talk about equal rights, and let's talk about women being paid equally, when we start to do this, and we're going to, again, keep it simple. We believe that you, as an individual, whether you are male, female, non-binary, gender fluid, however you see yourself, we want you to value and be valued of what you believe you are worth. And when we start to bring this equality in, and we believe everybody should be valued for their worth, for who they are, not what they look like, not what gender they are, not what religion, sexual preference, you, as the individual, who you are. We want you to be seen and valued for who you are. And when we begin to bring this equality into this, where everybody should be equals, you're taking away your value. Because now your value becomes the same value as the next man, woman, non-binary, gender fluid person. It does not mean that we don't stop fighting to be seen, because some are not seen as much as others. But we want you to fight for you and your value. And as you do this for you, you begin to do this for the collective. And yes, you can spread your wings and go beyond. Like I said, we are keeping this very simple. But we're bringing this into this conversation of light and dark, and how one is not greater than less than the other, because it's all about oneness and about the individual. And if we say man is greater than woman, and again, we're just keeping it simple. We know that there's more beyond the scope of man and woman. But when we say man is greater than woman, we are devaluing one over the other. So when we say light and dark, one is greater than the other, we're devaluing, and they both have their own individual, unique value to bring in to you and to bring you back to your wholeness, to your oneness. So meditate with this. Journal about it. Ask your support guides, your angels, your ancestors, for guidance and clarity around this subject. Maybe something that you heard, you feel resonates true, and some of it, maybe it doesn't. But this whole idea of oneness is actually about the individual. And individually, we are part of one collective consciousness. And we show up as who we are as individuals to help elevate the collective consciousness. We all help elevate the collective consciousness. In our own unique way, we all help elevate the collective consciousness. So the more that you come into unity and oneness within yourself, you help the collective consciousness to become one and to work as one unit in itself as the collective consciousness. So the light and the dark all has its own unique value. They all bring value to you. And one is not better than or less than the other. And if you can begin to see things through that perspective, you will be able to navigate both a lot more easefully along your journey. You begin to see the value you have as a human being, a human being with whatever skin suit, uniform, whatever you call it, that you are wearing. Whether you are male, you are female, you are gender fluid, you are non-binary, you are transgender, you are gender fluid, whatever it is, you are valued. You are valid, valued, and you are part of this collective consciousness. And the more that you come back to your oneness, into divine love, the more you come back into the collective consciousness and bring that value and elevate the consciousness. And that is all we are here for. To help ourselves and to help others by helping ourselves, and to inspire them to help themselves. My mission that I've chose, every time I say my mission, I go right to Mission Impossible. Loved that as a kid. Your mission, if you choose. This is my mission that I know in my heart, and I'm choosing to walk my mission, is to bring love and oneness to this wonderful planet Earth. And in doing so, to help heal the planet to heal the collective consciousness, to bring in peace, love, happiness, and joy. And I can do this more easefully if I see the value in everything instead of labeling things good or bad, right or wrong. So I hope this helps you in some way. I hope you find some pieces that you find useful, or find the whole thing very useful. But again, I want you to hold that in your heart and discern what you believe to be true, what resonates in your heart. Until next time, go out and spread some love in this world. I am sending all my love to all of you. Bye-bye for now.